get pushed aside. And this is why I say what happened in all of these revolutions, and I'm speaking especially of Egypt now, and you look at any liberation force, because we've all been, most countries on this continent have been colonized, and we recognize that pernicious colonization as an occupation force that must be expelled, right? And we have justified violence. That. Well, I am saying that patriarchy is the world's oldest and longest continuous occupation force, and I will use any means necessary. I use that intentionally to end that occupation by patriarchy. Because when I look at Egypt, my country of birth now, the revolution has devolved into a dick swinging contest. A cisgendered dick swinging contest between one group of men and another group of men. That is not my revolution. So these women who have been erased, they continue to be erased as we speak. In Hong Kong, women are being sexually assaulted for protesting, and it's the men who you see all the time. In Sudan, women were raped and sexually assaulted, and it's the men who were sitting and negotiating with the military to talk about transition. No more. Because I'm not just fighting the state now, because I think when we talk also about women leaders, I also want to emphasize that I'm not interested in a woman who's leading to uphold patriarchy. I do not support a woman simply for being a woman. I support women who dismantle patriarchy. So if you're going to lead the way Margaret Thatcher led, I'm not supporting that kind of woman leader. If you're going to lead the way that the current head of the CIA is a woman, and Trump boasted of having the first woman leading the CIA. This is not a feminist victory. This is a woman who's going to uphold patriarchy. I celebrate women who dismantle patriarchy. And the dismantling is not just on the state level, because our male revolutionary comrades are interested in the fight against the state. And I'm interested in what I call the trifecta of misogyny. That is the state, the street, and the home. Because when I tell men this, they say to me, but Comrade Mona, nobody is free. You see, everyone is oppressed in Egypt or whatever. I say, yes, Comrade XY or whatever the fuck your name is. The state oppresses men and women, it's true. But the state and the street and the home together oppress women. This is what my revolution is. And if that's not your revolution, I'm not going to risk my life so that your penis can be free from another penis. That's not how it works.
Mona, you know, you're in Nigeria and you're shaking a really big table that has a lot of powerful female politicians on top of it, because it almost seems like the very few that, you know, are allowed to sort of push through to the top protect themselves in that positions by stomping on, you know, women, and especially young women. You know, they tend to see younger women as their competition. So they essentially spend, you know, they expend all that power on trying to protect their presence in those spaces. It's almost like they feel so special that they're very few there. So it's like, we don't, you know, I want to continue feeling special, so I don't want any of you girls here with me. And it's terribly sad because, you know, a lot of young women I've spoken to, a lot of the aspiring politicians like Zara here in the North, you know, always talk about the struggle with older women that are in positions of power, and it's almost like they make it much harder for them to push through. I don't know if you know this, but the number of women in the National Assembly, the legislative arm of government, actually fell over over the last election. We only have 7% of women female representation in the legislative arm of, you know, all across Nigeria. Only 7% are women. And these are men that are supposed to be making policies about gender issues, gender equality, sanitary pads, which you deeply emphasized in your book, and the Ugandan struggle to ensure that sanitary pads are available for every schoolgirls, because there was that understanding of what the impact of not having the sanitary products available for young girls in schools. Yes. And I'll let you.
Sure. Those are all incredibly important and crucial points. How, in 2019, is such a big country like Nigeria, how does Nigeria have just 7% female representation in government? How? This is 2019. How? And there are other countries around the world that are lower. And the best that we can imagine is like maybe 41%, and I think that might be in Mexico. How is this possible? This is what I talk about when I say that patriarchy is the world's longest and most pernicious and most continuous occupation force. This is what I mean. And what you said about the female politicians in Nigeria is exactly what I mean when I say that women accept crumbs in return for doing the dirty job of patriarchy. My enemy is not young women. You are not my enemy. The young sisters walking around here are not my enemy. My young queer comrades are not my enemy. My enemy is patriarchy. And patriarchy socializes us to be in competition with each other because divide and conquer. I am not in competition with you. My fight, my war is against patriarchy. I want to be replaced by young women. I want you to replace me. I'm 52. I'm not that young. I want to dance, okay? Enough of this revolution business. I want to be replaced by you. And I want to be replaced by feminist warriors. We are not in war with each other. We are at war with patriarchy. And you mentioned Fakria, Uganda. And in my chapter on profanity, I mentioned one of the fiercest warriors in that war against patriarchy, Dr. Stella Nyanzi. Incredible woman who is currently in prison for offending one of the world's longest in power dictators, Yoweri Museveni. This is a woman who has no bombs, a woman who has no grenades, a woman who has no armies. And he is a man who has been in power for more than 3 decades, who has all the weapons in the world and all the money in the world, and he is offended by a poem that she posted on Facebook wishing that his mother's vaginal canal had poisoned him during birth. And when she posted this poem to mark his birthday, she wrote her address on Facebook and said, "Come and beat me up, Yoweri." This is a warrior for feminism. And she is in prison now because Museveni and the patriarchy in Uganda recognize that this is a woman who refuses crumbs. And this is a woman who understands that profanity is not the sin here. Obviously, I use sin differently. Profanity is not the violence here. Poverty is violence. The poverty that keeps women, girls, and people who menstruate from having the sanitary products that they need, this is violence. The violence that Yoweri Museveni's regime subjects its political opponents to, the torture that is subjected where they peel the skin on their ears. What is more offensive? That you peel the skin off your dissidents' ears, that you keep girls and anyone who menstruates from going to school because they don't have sanitary products. What is offensive? That Stella Nyanzi called you a pair of buttocks or poverty? What is more offensive? This is the skewed measure that patriarchy imposes on us. It makes us believe that Mona saying fuck, that Stella Nyanzi saying, "I wish your mother's birth canal had poisoned you, and you're a pair of buttocks," it makes you think that this is the greater offense. Patriarchy and its crimes are what is offensive.
And I think it's terribly sad that we're seeing, here in Nigeria, how our government is becoming, increasingly tyrannical. It's one of the biggest issues that women face here in Nigeria is, state-sanctioned sexual violence. And a huge case in point is the Abuja raid on women. where the state sanctions or orders the police to go out at night and just pick women randomly off the street, take them to prison, demand a bribe, or rape them in prison with sachet leathers because they don't have a condom. And when women got really angry and decided to protest, marched to the agency that prescribed the order, a spokesperson came out and said, well, we're trying to cleanse our city, because we have this idea that, and this goes for the Christians and the Muslims, right? We have this idea that we're purists, and anything that doesn't fall within our cultural and religious beliefs should not exist. And you talk about the diversity of causes that women movements accommodate, but in terms of how the state uses violence, sexual violence against women, and then when you confront the state, it tells you, well, they were prostitutes. And when they say that, they understand the kind of society we are, because people are, oh, she's a prostitute, she deserves it.
Absolutely. I mean, the state claims for itself a copyright over violence, right? This is why one of the sins in my book is, they're showing you the minutes here. This is why one of the sins in my book is violence, because I'm done with the state owning the copyright to all of this. I'm an anarchist, fuck the state. I will no longer be quiet or submit to the violence of the state without a massive pushback. Mm-hmm. And this idea that the state can do this, and it recruits others from society who don't belong to the state powers just by demeaning us through the word prostitute. Well, if those women were prostitutes, then I'm a prostitute. I'm a prostitute every day if this is what the state is going to use so that it can justify sexual violence. I have been called a prostitute by the Egyptian regime. They've put my picture on the front page of an Egyptian newspaper and they call me a sex activist. What the fuck is a sex activist? Okay, I love sex, sure, I'll go out there. And the Saudi regime had a news report on its television not only calling me a sex activist, but saying Mona Eltahawy hates men and is calling for sex on the street. I'm like, you what? Okay, let's go.
Yeah. So I would like to ask you one more question before we throw it into the crowd. So, and this is very important, and we talk about the intersectionality of feminism. Do you think do you believe that feminism can or should accommodate the different scales of whether you're on the extremes by whoever defines it as that, or you're the more moderate feminist, or you're just at the very end of it.
Right.
Do you think that we should have a feminism that accommodates each and every feminist?
Okay, I would answer by asking, first of all, what are the scales for patriarchy? Is there an extreme patriarchy? Is there a moderate patriarchy? Is there a scale for patriarchy so that I can figure out what my response is? Of course, the answer is no, right? There is no scale for patriarchy. So my response to that is no. I mean, why is it always feminism that is, patriarchy demands of feminism to constantly clip our wings, constantly stop scaring us, stop making me uncomfortable, stop fighting for your humanity. Wait for what? So my definition of feminism used to be, when I was younger, equality. Equality is not enough anymore. It's too late for equality. My definition of feminism now is the total dismantling and destruction of patriarchy. Nothing less. And further to that definition, I want more than equality. I want freedom. Because as I said, men are not free. So I'm tired of people asking me, so Mona, what do you think of the more moderate feminism? What is moderate feminism, please? What is moderate feminism? When is patriarchy ever moderate? So that I have to be moderate in response. Fuck that shit. No more moderate. Moderate is what they do to silence you. And when they want to muzzle you. We are being raped. We are being killed. We are being tortured. And when I say we, it is basically all of us other than cis-het men. I'm talking about women, girls, queer people, non-binary people. How much longer will we be killed and raped before they stop this nonsense of, well, what about a more moderate feminism? No moderate feminism. Do I scare you? Good. You should be scared.
So we're going to take a few questions from the audience. Okay. In the black scarf, Zara.
Hi, Mona. I just want to say thank you for the work you do. We may not always agree, but I'm very, very grateful for you and the work that you do. That aside, do you ever worry about your safety? Because I'm worried about you. If the Saudi government is...
Do I have a bodyguard? Will you travel with me?
Okay. Do you worry about your safety? Do you worry about what would happen to you and your family? Do you ever think about those things?
Are we going to take more than one question?
Do we have another question? Okay, in the back with the lovely hair. Yeah.
Hi Mona, my name is Blessing. When we talk about feminism in Nigeria and equality, we sometimes hear men say, we don't want equality, what we want is equity. And we find that they don't actually do anything for equity or for equality. So what do you say about that?
Can we take another one? Yeah, you in red.
Hi Mona.
Hello.
Hi. So I made a documentary on Hajj earlier in the year, and I interviewed a woman who is supposed to be in charge of women. She's a Nigerian woman. I specifically asked her if women are molested, sexually harassed in Makkah. And then she told me that a lot of cases that women come to her and they tell her that, Nigerian women, yeah, they come to her and they tell her that a man groped them while they were trying to touch Kaaba, or somebody just slapped their ass or something. And she blamed the women, yeah, because she said something like, she tells women all the time that they shouldn't go close to the Kaaba, that they have no business going to the Kaaba. So I just want to ask that, can I take a word for it, like in kind of like, telling people that these things happen in Makkah. So can I question? Okay, so as a Muslim, as Muslims, because we try as much as we can to practice Islam, and I saw a video where gay Muslims were talking about their struggles, and I also read something in the magazine where gay people who feel attracted to the same sex than Muslims, they say things like, they feel like it's a trial, they feel like it's a test from God, but they are strongly attracted to the same sex. If they should act upon it. And I said something on Twitter one day that caused an uproar, and Muslim men came at me, where I said, does being gay take you out of the fold of Islam? Does it make you a non-Muslim? Because I just feel like if you say being gay is a sin, yeah, it's just like a sin like maybe lying or committing adultery. And we all do that. I mean, everybody does that. So what makes you different from a gay person? So I just want to, yeah.
Do you want to answer the first question?
Okay, so the first question about do I fear for my safety? You know, in 2011, the Egyptian riot police broke my left arm and my right hand and sexually assaulted me and threatened me with gang rape, and I was detained. I can see I've shocked you already. Sister, you have no idea. And And they threatened me with gang rape, and I was detained for 12 hours, 6 hours by the Interior Ministry and 6 hours by military intelligence, headed at the time, I should say, by the current fascist fuck who is the president of my country, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. He was head of military intelligence. I was blindfolded and interrogated with 2 broken arms. So they have tried, and I'm still here. So, listen, you know, my answer to that is I do the work that I do because I am driven to destroy the patriarchy. I'm on a mission to destroy the patriarchy. Will I be hurt, carry out this mission? I already have. What else can they do to me, you know? So honestly, this is what I don't give it much thought. I don't wake up in, I tell you though that a friend of mine told me earlier this year, I got into a lot of trouble with the Saudi regime because I helped a young Saudi woman who escaped from her family. A young woman called Rahaf who's now living in exile in Canada, yeah? So, as a reward for this, the Saudi regime systematically attacked me on social media 6 weeks straight. I got death threats 3 days in a row. I was called this whore and a sex activist on TV. And one of my friends asked me when she found out that I was going to the Karachi Literature Festival, she pleaded